stifling defense. Just enough on offense in a grinded out win against an in-state rival. Just another Cy-Hawk game, right?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I talked about it in the preview of this game. It was Iowa's defense that was going to win this football game. I thought Iowa's offense was going to have a challenge against a better Cyclone defense than they faced in week 1 against Utah State, and that's exactly what happened. We are going to talk about that. But I thought it was the defense that would have a really good day against this Iowa State offense, and that's exactly what happened. It was the defense that won the day, right? It was a defensive touchdown in a 7-point game. It was a defensive touchdown, a pick six by Sebastian Castro that ended up being the difference in this football game. So once again, here we are another year, and Iowa's defense, their scoring ability, their ability to take the football away and put the ball into the end zone themselves, that's the difference in what separated Iowa from Iowa State in this football game. There was not a whole lot of outstanding talent, of course, on Iowa State. We mentioned that in the preview as well. No Hunter Deckers, Jarrell Brock because of the gambling investigation. But Iowa did what they were supposed to do on the defensive side of the ball. And we know how good this Hawkeye defense is. But there's a couple of players that have really stood out in these first two games for Iowa, and I want to spotlight them right now. First, let's talk about Jay Higgins and what he's done at the linebacker spot right now. Like when you lose Jack Campbell, when you lose Seth Benson, guys got to step up. We know that they went to the transfer portal and got a guy like Nick Jackson, but how about 15 tackles last week against Utah State for Jay Higgins? I think he had 7 against Iowa State. He's a guy that sniffs out, he smells the football, and he flows to the football, flies to the football at that linebacker spot. They're sitting pretty nice at the linebacker spot as well. And we talked about the secondary in this preseason as well. It's one of the best secondaries in the Big Ten, if not all of college football, right? Quinn Schulte, Xavier Wampka. Of course, we talk about Cooper DeJean, who had a really nice game here against Iowa State. But how about Sebastian Castro? He's kind of that other guy that ends up making a big play in this game. I think he had a pretty good game against Utah State as well. It's just bolstering that secondary even more, making it more difficult. Having another guy back there just makes it even more difficult for offenses to move the football in this game. Of course, the defensive line stepping up. The depth across the exterior and the interior of that defensive line is fantastic. And you saw multiple guys really step up and make big plays for the Iowa Hawkeyes in this game. There's not a ton more to talk about when it comes to a Phil Parker defense. They did what Iowa continues to do year after year after year, and consider what Iowa State had on offense. The result, at least on that side of the ball, is not too surprising. But I want to move over to the offensive side of the football, right? I'm highlighting players that we maybe didn't see a whole lot of last year, and we're seeing more step up into bigger roles this year. Boy, how about Jazuin Patterson? Oh, I love the way he runs the football. A bigger kid. He runs downhill, hits the hole with a lot of speed, with a lot of pop. He just runs downhill north and south. No nonsense type of runner. Look, I know you got Kaleb Johnson, and he's kind of slated to be your bell cow, or at least was at the start of the season. Now you look at Jazuin Patterson, who I think definitely has solidified him as another option in this run game. And Brian Ferentz needs to continue to get Patterson more touches, because he was the spark in this offense today for Iowa. He's the one that got them moving down the football a little bit more. When Cade McNamara completes only 12 passes, you need something else, and Jazuin Patterson was that something else in this game against a good Iowa State defense. I want that point to be known, because Iowa, of course, did not have the best offensive day, right? Because of the pick six, they only put up 13 offensive points in this football game right now. So getting Jazuin Patterson involved more, I think how that's going to work, right? Are we going to see less carries from Kaleb Johnson, or is it going to be certain packages, certain situations? Very curious to see how Brian Ferentz kind of approaches that. Let's talk more about this Iowa offense. I was really focused in on the offensive line coming into this game. This was an offensive line that didn't get a great push against Utah State, right? Only 2.4 yards per carry against the Aggies. And now like I said, this is a much better Iowa State defense. This is a good Big 12 defense in the Cyclones going in on the road. Now, although Iowa State didn't have great numbers in terms of sacks and tackles for loss, they only had 1 sack in this game. I thought Iowa did well. They did good in pass protection against the Cyclones. But when it came to just like run blocking and a lot of other pieces, Iowa State got into the backfield a good amount against Iowa. I remember late in the game, right, where they got to get a couple of yards. Didn't come up with a push. And Iowa State got in the backfield and gave their offense a chance, right, in the latter stages, in the latter minutes of that football game. I think this offensive line still has some work to do. I think you got some good backs in this backfield in Patterson and Johnson that I've talked about before. And I think if this offensive line can get pushed, if they can get better, this could be a really good running game for Iowa going forward. But, you know, it's the first couple of games. Iowa State, a good defense, but like I said at the top, doing just enough to get the job done. Let's talk about the pass game a little bit in this one. Iowa State had a good secondary coming into this one. The result, right, Cade, throwing for under 200 yards, I should say, 12 completions. That result doesn't necessarily surprise me, but I can really tell when Iowa, if I was going to throw the football well, I think it's going to be their tight ends. I think this is a tight end-centric offense. This is an offense when I think in the future they're going to have their best days at the office. It's going to be Jazuin Patterson and Kaleb Johnson running the football, hitting play action, hitting some tight ends down the field. Can they hit the receivers? Sure. You know, the Seth Anderson, the Nico Regaini, the Deontay Vines of the world. Sure, they can get the ball down the field to those guys, but I think their true weapons are at the tight end position, the leaders in the receiving room, in the receiving game, especially so far. Are there some things to work on? Sure. Is this a gritty, grinded-out victory in a Cyhawk series that always somehow finds its way to be competitive? Sure. This is an Iowa team, though. When I look at this from 10,000 feet above and I look at the overall view for Iowa, this is a team that continues to improve. This is a team that continues to find new guys to step up. And this is a team, when you look at the whole Big Ten West as a whole and how maybe, let's be nice and call it up and down, right? The West has been with some of these teams so far. Iowa is one of those teams. You know what you're going to get. You know what you can count on. You can count on stifling defense, physical football, disciplined football, good special teams. And now you got an offense with a quarterback in Cade McNamara that can do a little bit more. This is an offense that at least can, although today was not their best effort, no question about it, against a good Iowa State defense, this is an offense that's at least a little bit better, and now they got an extra threat in that running back room. I want to hear what you guys have to think in this game. Tight, gritty, grind it out. As I said, what do you think? You think Iowa's headed in an upward trajectory, or do you think they got a lot to work on before we start getting into some of these Big Ten games? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.